It's 1:17 a.m. and you're still awake, not because you're partying, not because you're busy, but because your mind won't shut up. You're thinking about the version of you that should already exist by now. The fitter you, the richer you, the disciplined you, the you who finally stopped wasting days. And the most painful part is this: you're not lacking ambition. You have goals that could change your entire life. You just can't get yourself to do the work consistently. Not because you're stupid, not because you're weak, but because your brain has learned a trick that keeps you stuck. It makes dreaming feel like doing. If you're ambitious but lazy, this samurai lesson will feel uncomfortably personal, and it might be the one thing that finally flips the switch. Before we go deeper, if you want more stories like this ancient discipline translated into modern action, hit subscribe. Not because it helps the channel, but because it helps you. You're building a library of focus and strength you can return to whenever you start slipping. Now let's talk about a young samurai named Yuki. Yuki wasn't lazy the way people imagine laziness. He wasn't empty. He was full of visions, full of future plans, full of speeches he gave to himself about the life he was going to build. He would sit 4 hours reading battle stories, studying legends, imagining the moment people would finally look at him and say, "That one." He became great. He pictured himself mastering weapons, learning advanced strategy, earning honor, becoming the kind of warrior who didn't just survive history, but got written into it. And because the dream was so vivid, he believed something dangerous, that wanting it badly would naturally push him forward. That ambition was a fuel tank, that goals were a machine, that the fire in his chest would eventually turn into motion. But when training time arrived, when it was time to sweat, repeat, fail, bruise, wake up early, push through boredom, Yuki became a master of excuses. The weather wasn't right. He didn't feel good. He needed to plan more. He'd start tomorrow. He'd train when he felt ready. He'd wait for the right mood. He'd wait for the moment motivation finally grabbed him by the collar and dragged him into discipline. Except motivation, and it came like that. Years passed, and Yuki's dreams grew larger, while his skills stayed small. Younger warriors, less gifted, less visionary, less obsessed with grand outcomes, trained every day. They didn't talk much. They didn't dramatize their purpose. They simply showed up, and they passed him, quietly at first, then completely. And Yuki finally met the truth that hits ambitious people like a punch to the throat. Your dreams don't lift you. They expose you. If you don't earn them, they don't become a source of pride. They become a source of regret. Here's what most people miss about that story. Yuki didn't fail because he lacked desire. He failed because his identity became attached to dreaming. He became the guy with big plans, the guy who could talk about future greatness with perfect clarity, the guy who had the vision. And that identity created a gap between what he wanted and what he was willing to endure. Because imagining success is comfortable. Doing the work is uncomfortable. Imagining makes you feel powerful immediately. Practice makes you feel clumsy before it makes you strong. And when your brain has a choice between feeling like a winner right now or feeling like a beginner again, it will protect your ego every time. That's why ambitious people procrastinate in a very specific way. They don't just waste time on nonsense. They waste time on productive-looking avoidance. They research, they plan, they reorganize, they watch one more video. They find the perfect method. They wait until they have the perfect gear. They convince themselves that preparation is progress, but preparation without practice is disguised procrastination. And talking about your future without acting is even worse, because the brain rewards it. When you imagine a future victory in detail, your body can release similar chemicals to the ones you'd feel after real achievement. When you tell people your plan, and they nod, and they say, "Wow," your brain takes the compliment as a partial payout. You get paid emotionally before you do the job. So your mind subtly learns, why suffer through training when I can feel successful right now by thinking about it? That's the trap. Your ambition becomes a drug. Your goals become a fantasy world, and your real life becomes the boring waiting room where nothing changes. Now add one more problem. The bigger the goal, the easier it is to delay. Because the mountain looks massive, So massive that your first step feels pointless. You look at your current strength compared to the top, and your nervous system reads it as danger. Overwhelm shows up, not because you're incapable, but because your brain is trying to protect you from discomfort and disappointment. So you delay the small step, and you tell yourself you're being smart. You tell yourself you're not ready. You tell yourself you need more clarity, but clarity isn't what you need. Motion is what you need. Centuries ago, Miyamoto Musashi understood this in a way that feels almost brutal. Musashi didn't build greatness through occasional explosions of effort. He built it through something quieter: repetition. The kind of repetition that looks unimpressive in the moment, but becomes terrifying over time. Musashi didn't treat discipline like a mood. He treated it like gravity. Always there, always working, whether you feel it or not. And this is where the Kaizen method enters the story, the way of small improvements. Not glamorous improvements, not viral improvements, not I changed my life in 48 hours improvements. Small, almost boring improvements that compound into mastery. Think about the difference between the person who trains for 3 hours once a week when they feel inspired, and the person who trains for 15 minutes every day even when they're tired. The first person feels intense. The second person becomes dangerous, because consistency doesn't just build skill, it builds identity. It proves something to your nervous system. I am the kind of person who acts. The samurai didn't train only when they felt ready. They trained because training was who they were. They didn't negotiate with their emotions. They didn't wake up and ask, "Do I feel like building my future today?" They woke up and moved. Even if the mind complained, even if the body resisted, even if the weather was wrong, because they understood something modern culture keeps hiding. If you wait for perfect conditions, you can wait your whole life. It's like waiting for perfect weather before starting a journey. You'll watch other people arrive while you're still checking the forecast. Here's the mental shift that changes everything. Motivation is not the spark that creates action. Action is the spark that creates motivation. Most people get this backward. They believe motivation comes first, like a lightning bolt, and then action follows. That's a comfortable story because it removes responsibility. It lets you say, "I'm just not motivated." It makes your inaction feel like fate, but the reality is uglier and more empowering. Action comes first. Action creates momentum. Momentum creates energy. Energy feels like motivation. So the people who look motivated aren't magically inspired. They are simply the ones who move early enough that momentum catches fire. The samurai knew this. They understood that the human mind is a liar in the beginning. In the beginning, the mind will argue, it will bargain, it will invent reasons, it will exaggerate difficulty, it will tell you you're too tired, too busy, too late, too behind. And if you believe that voice, you stay stuck. So what did they do instead? They lowered the bar to start. Then they raised the standard to continue. This is one of the most underrated discipline hacks in history. Make starting so small that your excuses look ridiculous. Not because small is the goal. Small is the entrance. Small is how you bypass the emotional gatekeeper. Small is how you slip past the part of you that wants comfort. Imagine a student samurai who feels too lazy to train. He chooses one sword form each morning, just one. His friends laugh. They call it useless. They call it pointless. They say, "That won't make you great." But he continues. Every day, he does one form even when he doesn't feel like it. He does it when it's boring, when it's inconvenient, when it doesn't feel rewarding. And then something happens that only consistent people understand. The resistance fades. The movement becomes automatic. The body strengthens. The mind becomes quieter. The discipline deepens. He begins to look forward to the practice not because it's fun, but because it's familiar. It becomes part of his identity. Months later, he realizes he has built a foundation, and now advanced skills come faster, because he has something most people never build: the habit of showing up. Meanwhile, the friends who waited for motivation are still getting ready. Read that again. Still getting ready. This is why the smallest step can carry more power than the grandest plan. Because a plan does not change you, a step changes you. One step proves you're alive inside your own decisions. One step breaks the trance. And here's the harsh line that should be tattooed on every ambitious person's mind. Talking without doing creates the illusion of progress while leaving you unchanged. If you're ambitious but lazy, you don't need more dreams. You need a system that makes action inevitable. Now, let's expose the real reason you keep waiting. It's not laziness. Laziness is just the surface label people use when they don't understand the deeper mechanism. Under the "I don't feel like it" is usually fear. Fear of discomfort, fear of starting tired, fear of continuing without instant reward, fear of failing, fear of realizing you're not as good as you hoped, fear of being judged, fear of putting in effort and not getting the payoff. So your brain tries to protect you with delay. It says, let's wait, because waiting feels safe. Waiting protects your self-image. Waiting keeps the dream alive, because once you start, reality enters. And reality can bruise you, but discipline is not about avoiding those feelings. Discipline is about moving through them. This is why the samurai were terrifying, not because they never felt fear, but because fear did not control their schedule. There's a samurai teaching that fits perfectly here. The sword that waits for perfect conditions never leaves its sheath. If you wait for the right moment, you may wait forever. So here's the Kaizen lesson for the ambitious but lazy person. Stop trusting your emotions as commanders. Emotions are weather. They change, they lie, they exaggerate, they vanish. But commitments can be engineered. Habits can be built. Systems can be designed. You don't need to feel ready. Readiness is often an illusion the mind uses to delay. You don't need to feel motivated. Motivation is often the reward for movement, not the permission to begin. Instead, you need one small daily action that you do no matter what. Not a heroic routine, not a life transformation overnight. One small action that is so easy you have no excuse, and so consistent that it starts rewriting your identity. And once your identity changes, your life follows. Because the moment you become the kind of person who acts even in small ways, you stop being a prisoner of mood. You stop handing control of your future to your feelings. You take the wheel. And in the next section, I'm going to show you exactly how to build that system, how to choose the minimum daily discipline, how to remove friction, how to set triggers, how to prevent relapse, and how to turn Kaizen into a personal weapon so even if you're naturally lazy, your results are still unstoppable. Most people think the hardest part is doing the work. It isn't. The hardest part is consistently becoming the kind of person who does the work even when your mind is screaming for comfort. Because let's be honest, if you're ambitious but lazy, your problem isn't that you don't know what to do. You already know. You've watched the videos, saved the tips, screenshot the routines, built the perfect plan in your head. Your problem is that every day, right at the moment you're supposed to act, something invisible pulls you off course. That invisible force is friction. Friction is what makes the first step feel heavy. It's what makes just start feel like lifting a boulder. It's what turns a simple task into a mental negotiation. And if you don't engineer friction, your ambition will keep losing to your nervous system. The samurai understood this without modern psychology terms. They didn't call it friction. They called it discipline. And discipline wasn't a mood for them. It was architecture. A structure designed to keep action happening no matter what the weather was inside their mind. So in this section, we're going to build your structure, not a motivational speech, not a believe in yourself moment, a system, a set of moves that makes progress automatic even if you're tired, bored, anxious, distracted, or not feeling it. Here's the first principle. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your standards. Ambitious people love goals because goals feel exciting. Goals feel like identity. I'm going to be great. But your brain doesn't live in the future. Your brain lives in patterns. That's why you can dream big and still wake up and scroll for an hour. Because the pattern is stronger than the promise. So we start by building a standard so small you can't argue with it, but so consistent it rewires you. This is what I call the minimum daily discipline. One action, every day, non-negotiable. The smallest version of the habit that still counts. And this is where most people sabotage themselves. They choose a minimum that is still too big. They choose something that requires motivation. They choose a minimum that depends on having a good day. That's not a minimum. That's a wish. Your minimum daily discipline has one job: to survive the worst version of you. The version of you who slept poorly. The version of you who feels heavy. The version of you who wants to quit. The version of you who is tempted to disappear into comfort. So the minimum daily discipline must be almost laughably easy. If your goal is fitness, the minimum might be 5 push-ups, not a full workout. 5 push-ups. If your goal is writing, the minimum might be 50 words, not a chapter. 50 words. If your goal is studying, the minimum might be 3 minutes of review, not an hour. 3 minutes. You might hear that and think, that's too small. That won't change anything. But that's the ambitious ego talking again. That's the part of you addicted to big dramatic moves because they feel meaningful. The samurai didn't worship drama. They worshipped repetition. Small actions don't look powerful in one day. They look powerful in 60 days. They look unstoppable in a year. Because a minimum isn't about performance. A minimum is about identity. It keeps the chain unbroken. It keeps you in motion. It keeps you in the arena. And once you are consistently in motion, scaling becomes easy. Because you're no longer fighting the start battle every day. This is the secret. When you protect the habit protects you. Now, the second principle: remove the decision. Your laziness is often disguised decision fatigue. Every day you wake up and ask, should I do it? You create a battlefield, and on that battlefield, comfort has more experience than you do. Comfort is a veteran. Comfort knows your weaknesses. It knows exactly what to whisper. It knows what to tempt. It knows how to justify. So you stop asking. You decide once. And then you make the action automatic. The samurai didn't wake up and decide whether to train. Training was the default. That's why they didn't need motivation. Motivation is what you need when your life is unstructured. Structure is what you need when you want freedom. So how do we remove the decision? You lock it to a trigger. A trigger is a moment that already happens every day. And right after that moment, you do your minimum. After brushing your teeth, you do your push-ups. After you pour your coffee, you open your notes and review for 3 minutes. After you sit at your desk, you write 50 words. Not later, not sometime today. Immediately after the trigger. This is how habits become part of your life instead of a battle against your life. If you don't attach your discipline to a trigger, it floats, and floating habits die. Now the third principle: shorten the distance between intention and action. Most people lose because of the gap. They say I'll do it, but there's a long distance between saying and doing. And in that distance, distractions breed. So you shorten the gap so much that there's no room for sabotage. If you want to train in the morning, your clothes are already laid out. Shoes by the door. No searching, no choosing, no delay. If you want to write, your document is already open. If you want to study, your flashcards are already on the table. If you want to meditate, the cushion is already there. You reduce the number of steps between the idea and the action, because every extra step is a chance for your brain to escape. This is why the lazy but ambitious person fails so often. Not because they are incapable, but because they keep building routines that require heroic energy to start. And heroic energy is rare, but engineered simplicity is reliable. Now, let's talk about the most misunderstood part of Kaizen: the boring middle. People can start things. People can even do a strong week. The problem is the second week, the third week, the moment the excitement dies. This is where the samurai mindset becomes a weapon. Musashi didn't train for entertainment. He trained for mastery, meaning he expected boredom. He expected repetition. He expected monotony. In modern life, boredom makes people panic. They assume boredom means something is wrong. They assume boredom means I'm not passionate. They assume boredom means this isn't working. But boredom is often proof that the process is real. Because real improvement happens in repetition. Repetition is not exciting. It's quiet. It's humble. It's not cinematic. It's not a montage. It's a person doing the same thing again and again, refining by millimeters. So here's a shift that changes how you feel. Stop chasing excitement. Start chasing evidence. Evidence is what creates confidence. Every day you do the minimum, you create evidence. Evidence that you can be trusted. Evidence that you follow through. Evidence that you are not controlled by mood. And when you collect enough evidence, your identity upgrades. You stop being the ambitious person who struggles. You become the person who does what they said. Now, if you want to go further, if you want Kaizen to become unstoppable, you need a way to scale without breaking. This is where we use the 1% rule correctly. 1% better doesn't mean adding more pain every day. It means improving one tiny element of your system. Sometimes that means more reps. Sometimes it means less friction. Sometimes it means better sleep. Sometimes it means removing a distraction. Sometimes it means refining technique. For example, if you're building a fitness habit, the first month might be 5 push-ups minimum. The second month, the minimum becomes 5 push-ups plus a 10-minute walk. The third month, the minimum becomes 1 short workout session, twice a week, still anchored by the daily minimum. You don't leap, you layer. And layering is powerful because it preserves the core identity. I show up every day. Now let's talk about the trap that destroys ambitious people faster than any other. The all or nothing mindset. This mindset says, if I can't do it perfectly, I won't do it at all. So you miss one day and you think, I failed. You miss a workout and you think, I'm back to zero. You eat badly once and you think, what's the point? And then you collapse. Kaizen destroys this mindset with one sentence. Never miss twice. You can miss once. Life happens. You get sick. You travel. You have a bad day. Fine. But you don't miss twice. Missing twice is how a habit dies. Missing twice is how your brain learns a new identity. I quit. The samurai understood the power of continuity. It wasn't about never falling. It was about recovering instantly. So when you fail, you don't punish yourself with shame. Shame is emotional drama that keeps you stuck. You simply return. Return quickly. Return calmly. Return as if it's normal. Because it is normal. Progress isn't a straight line. It's a series of returns. Now here's something most people never realize. Laziness is often a symptom of unclear stakes. If your goal is vague, your brain treats it like optional entertainment. Get in shape. Start a business. Learn a skill. Those sound nice, but they don't create urgency. Musashi didn't train because it was a hobby. He trained because the cost of weakness was real. In his world, weakness could kill you. Your world is different, but the stakes are still real. Weakness may not kill your body, but it can kill your future. It can kill your confidence. It can kill relationships. It can kill self-respect. So you need to make the stakes visible. Not by panicking, not by spiraling, but by being honest. Ask yourself, if I stay like this for the next 3 years, what does my life look like? What opportunities do I lose? What kind of person do I become? What pain do I carry because I didn't do the simple daily work? That's not negativity. That's clarity. That's the blade cutting through illusion. And now comes the most practical move of all. Create a vow. Not a motivational vow. Not a dramatic speech. A simple commitment that you repeat to yourself when you don't feel like acting. The transcript said it perfectly. I am not controlled by my feelings. I am guided by my commitments. That's the vow. And it's powerful because it tells your brain, emotions are allowed, but they don't drive. You can feel lazy and still act. You can feel unmotivated and still show up. You can feel bored and still repeat the form. That's how discipline becomes freedom. Because once you can act without needing the perfect mood, your life stops being controlled by random inner weather. You become the driver. Now in the final section, we're going to sharpen this into a complete samurai system. Actually use the 7-day Kaizen reset for ambitious but lazy people. The exact way to choose your minimum habit based on your personality. How to use environment like a weapon. How to build accountability without needing other people. And how to turn small daily action into a momentum engine that makes your old self unrecognizable. Asterisk, you don't need a new personality. a sudden burst of motivation, or a perfect week to prove you're serious. What you need is a reset, because after you've been stuck long enough, your brain starts calling the pattern who you are. Ambitious mind, lazy body, big dreams, small follow-through. The samurai way cuts through that illusion. Identity isn't what you claim when you feel inspired. Identity is what you repeat when you don't. So we're going to turn repetition into a weapon, the kind that doesn't rely on mood and doesn't negotiate with comfort. Picture this as a 7-day Kaizen reboot designed for the ambitious but lazy person, not to pump you up, but to hand you the steering wheel again. Day 1 is the oath of the minimum. You choose one area that would change everything if it improved health, money, skill, focus, confidence, and then you select a daily action, so small it feels almost embarrassing, but so reliable it survives your worst day. 5 push-ups, 10 squats, a 5-minute walk, 5 flashcards, 3 minutes of review, 50 words, 1 outreach message, 10 minutes of focus planning something concrete, measurable, and easy to argue with. The point isn't performance, it's continuity. Day 2 is where you remove the decision, because most people don't lose to laziness, they lose to the daily debate. Every time you wake up and ask, should I do it? You create a battlefield, and comfort has more experience than you do. So you decide once, then attach the habit to a trigger that already happens every day. After brushing your teeth, after pouring coffee, after sitting at your desk, after you come home. Trigger first, action second. No gap for sabotage to breed. Day 3, you shrink the battlefield even further by removing friction. Lay out your clothes, clear the desk, open the document in advance, put the phone in another room, close the tabs, set one tool on the table like a signal flare that says this is who I am now. Samurai didn't feel disciplined. They arranged their environment, so discipline became the shortest path. Day 4, you train the start, because the enemy isn't the work, it's the first 60 seconds. Your mission is to begin instantly when the trigger hits. No warm-up scrolling, no in a minute, no secret bargain with your future self. You honor the start, you make it sacred. Day 5 is the rule that makes your discipline unbreakable. You can miss once, but you do not miss twice. Missing once is life. Missing twice is a new identity. If you slipped yesterday, you return today calmly, quickly, with zero drama, because recovery speed is what separates a warrior from a dreamer. Day 6, you upgrade by 1%. And you do it the right way, not by adding more pain, but by improving the system. Sleep 20 minutes earlier. Prepare tomorrow tonight. Add a 10-minute focus block after the minimum. Make the workspace cleaner. Remove one distraction ritual and replace it with a start ritual. Tiny improvements compound faster than heroic sprints because they don't break you. Day 7, you create proof, because confidence isn't a vibe, it's a receipt. You write down what you did every day, what it proves about you, and what your next minimum is for the next 7 days. That's how your brain stops believing in your fantasies and starts believing in your actions. And here's the deeper truth. Lazy often isn't laziness. It's fear wearing a comfortable mask, fear of failing, fear of looking stupid, fear of starting and discovering you're not as good as your imagination, fear of the gap between ambition and current ability. Your mind chooses comfort because comfort protects your ego from a wound. The samurai answer is simple and ruthless in the best way. Train anyway, not to punish yourself, but to free yourself. Each time you act while resistance is present, you teach your nervous system a new lesson. Feelings can come along for the ride, but they don't get to drive. That's why discipline feels like freedom later, even if it feels like friction at first. If you want a framework to remember, use the discipline triangle: commitment, environment, repetition. Commitment is the vow you repeat when you don't feel like moving. I'm not controlled by my feelings, I'm guided by my commitments. Environment is the setup that makes action easier than escape. Repetition is the chain you protect with never miss twice. Combine those three and ambition stops torturing you and starts guiding you. Because ambition without action is a special kind of pain, the pain of knowing you could be more. while watching yourself stay the same. The moment you build a system that's small enough to start, strong enough to survive bad days, and simple enough to repeat, your life stops being a negotiation and becomes a direction. And if this hit you, if you want more samurai lessons like this, more practical systems that turn discipline into something actually live, make sure you subscribe to the channel because we're building quiet power here, not hype. Now choose your minimum for the next 7 days. Attach it to a trigger. Remove friction tonight and start today. Not when you feel ready, because readiness is a myth, but repetition is real.